Okay, let's be real. How many times have you heard this? Be professional. We hear it all the time, right? But what does that actually mean?
Or what about this one? Hey, can you submit the report soon? Soon. What's soon? Is that like in an hour? End of day? Sometime this week? The uncertainty can drive you crazy.
And oh, the classic. Use appropriate language. Okay, appropriate for who? In what situation? See, these vague instructions, they're everywhere. And honestly, they just create a ton of confusion and stress.
But here's the thing. What if I told you there's actually a system, a framework that's been around for centuries, specifically designed to help us figure out this kind of unclear language? Let's crack this code together.
So this isn't a new problem. For hundreds of years, legal scholars and thinkers have been wrestling with this, and they came up with a really cool way to think about it, like a ladder. We're going to climb this ladder of ambiguity, starting from just a little bit of confusion all the way up to something that's, well, pretty much impossible to figure out on our own. So here are the 4 rungs on our ladder: Khafi, Mushkil, Mujmal, and Mutashabeeh. I know, the names might sound a little intimidating, but trust me, don't get hung up on them. The ideas behind them are super simple and incredibly useful. So let's start at the very bottom, and you'll see what I mean. All right, first step. This is the one you probably run into every single day. It's called Khafi, and the easiest way to think about it is it's a context problem. Now, with Khafi, here's the key. The word itself is perfectly clear. You know exactly what it means. The trouble starts when you try to apply that perfectly clear word to a messy, fuzzy, real-life situation. That's when things get confusing. And this is not a new problem at all. I mean, think about it. Centuries ago, legal scholars were debating whether the word thief, a pretty clear word, applied to a pickpocket. Fast forward to today, and we're doing the exact same thing. You see a sign in the park, no vehicles. Okay, pretty clear. But what about an e-scooter? See, the word vehicle isn't the problem, it's how you apply it in that specific spot. You really do see this everywhere. Your office says formal clothes. Sounds simple, until someone walks in wearing smart casual. Or a rule says no junk food. Makes sense, right? But then, is a granola bar junk food? That's Khafi in a nutshell. A perfectly clear word running into a not-so-clear situation. Okay, let's climb up to the next rung on our ladder. This level is called Mushkil, and here the game changes. The problem isn't the context anymore. Now it's the word itself that's tricky. So with Mushkil, you can't just react. You actually have to stop and think. The word itself is kind of vague, and you have to do a little bit of detective work, you have to investigate it, and figure out what it really means before you can even try to use it. This comparison really shows the difference. So in a classic text, someone might promise not to eat idam, which is a type of condiment. But then they're left scratching their head. Is a rich meat curry a condiment, or is it the main meal? Now, look at a modern example. A diet says to avoid processed foods. That forces you to stop and ask, wait a minute, what does processed even mean? Is my store-bought bread processed? The word itself is the puzzle. Yet think about a job offer that says full-time work. Does that mean 35 hours a week? 40? Can you work from home? The term full-time needs to be defined. And hey, there's our old friend, maintain professionalism. This is different from the e-scooter problem. This isn't about applying a clear rule. It's about figuring out what the heck professionalism even means in the first place. That takes real thought, and that is Mushkil. All right, we're getting near the top of the ladder now, and these next 2 levels are different. This is where your own ability to figure things out, well, it just kind of hits a wall. And the difference between these 2 is super important. First, you have Mujmal. This is when a word has so many possible meanings, there's no way you can guess the right one. You absolutely have to go back to the source, the person who said it, and ask them what they meant. But then there's Mutashabeeh. And this is something else entirely. The meaning is just beyond our understanding. You can't figure it out, you can't ask about it, you just have to accept it. Remember our submit the report soon problem from the beginning? That's a perfect example of Mujmal. You can sit there and think about it all day, but you'll never know for sure. You have to ask, hey, when exactly is soon? Same thing with follow company policy. Which policy? The person who said it has to clarify. That's Mujmal. So how do you wrap your head around Mutashabeeh? Well, think of it like this. It's like trying to explain quantum mechanics to a 5-year-old. You can say the words, but the concepts are just not going to land. Or imagine you find an encrypted file, but the decryption key is lost forever. The message is there, but you can never, ever know what it says. The meaning is completely locked away. Okay, so we've climbed the entire ladder. We've seen all 4 levels of ambiguity. But so what, right? Well, here comes the most important part. How do you actually use all this? This is your new toolkit for fighting back against confusion. And it's really a simple 4-step plan. All you have to remember are 4 words: apply, think, ask, accept. So the next time you're faced with something unclear, just run it through this checklist. First, is this an apply problem? Am I just having trouble applying a clear word? No? Okay. Is this a think problem? Do I need to stop and really think about what this word means? Still stuck? Then it's time to ask. Do I need to go back to the source and ask for clarification? And finally, if none of that works, is this something I just have to accept is beyond my understanding right now? Okay, you ready? Let's do a quick pop quiz to see if you've got this. First one, a sign says no vehicles allowed, and you're standing there with your e-scooter. You know what vehicle means, but you're not sure if it applies here. Which level is that? Yep, that's a classic application problem. That's Khafi. All right, number 2, your boss says, finish this soon. You have no idea when soon is, and the only way to find out is to go back and ask them directly. When you have to ask, what is it? You got it. That's Mujmal. Okay, last one. Let's bring it back to the beginning. The company policy says you have to maintain professionalism. The word itself is the whole problem. You've got to stop and think about what that even means in different situations. When the word itself is the puzzle you have to solve, what is that? That is Mushkil. Perfect. See, this whole framework, it's so much more than just a dusty old theory. It's a powerful tool, a new mental model for looking at the world. It gives you a way to talk about uncertainty and, more importantly, a plan to find clarity. So now that you know about this, the real question isn't if you're going to see it again, it's where are you going to spot it first?